What do you think, or what do you hope um, LGBTQIA plus uh, kids, young people, even adults
Mm.
take away from this film? And I would just love to also get your thoughts on where we are as a country right now, where we've got mass shootings at either Pulse or Club Q. We've got laws being put on the books that sort of put targets on the backs of trans people and trans kids.
Yeah, in terms of what I want people to learn, like, the greatest lesson I learned in the Marine Corps is how to talk to people who are different from me and to find a middle ground, And I'm not trying to make the Marine Corps sound like some sort of Pollyanna situation, right? It's America. It's a concentrated, intensely concentrated version of the United States. So you've got the racism, the homophobia, the sexism, the classism, the ableism. All of that is still at play. But as a Marine, we're taught that there's no such thing as Black Marines or white Marines, right? That we are all dark green or light green. We have an intimate understanding, an essential understanding that our lives could quite possibly rest in the hands of someone that is really different and sees the world in a different way from us. And thus, we have to resolve our conflicts before we get to the battlefield. We have to get to that place where we can trust each other to look out for one another. So, what do I hope people to take away from this? All 8 billion of us on this planet, all 400 million of us in this country, we are all interconnected. All we all survive because of one another. There is no such thing as us versus them. We are only us. And as a result, we owe it to each other to talk across our differences and to find the middle ground. Like, we're in a highly polarized country. The Senate and the House split right down the middle between red and blue. And people seem to think that these ideologies and this way of seeing the world is going to lead to one side winning over the other. There is no winning unless we all win. And that's what I learned in the Marine Corps. No man left behind. And I hope that that message, regardless of what you think about the military, I hope that message seeps through. In terms of where we are as a country with all these mass shootings, I think queer people, we especially queer people of color, we exist in the blind spot of a supposedly colorblind society, one that hopes to wish racism away by any means necessary, but is totally intimidated and overwhelmed by the actual work of rooting out structural inequality. Simultaneously, we are living in a world where people are very uncomfortable with queer desire and queer and as a result, queer existence. And where does that leave queer people of color? We're in the blind spot. It's not until someone shows up to a bar and starts shooting people that we start to think that maybe, just maybe, we haven't solved our homophobia problem yet as a society. And I think that that's a shame. I think that, we're at a point now where, like, Florida has this "Don't Say Gay" bill, and they're trying to outlaw queer history in America's high schools. If you want to stop these mass shootings and this horrible violence directed at queer people, then we must create space for queer people to be their full authentic selves and to be accepted. The last 50 years has been about, um, you know, it's been about tolerance, not acceptance. And tolerance means that I have to shave down what makes me different so you can tolerate me being in the room with you. But guess what? No one has the stamina not to be their full selves all the time. So I'm hoping that, this film is a nice marker in the road of the next 50 years being less about tolerance and more about acceptance. And acceptance is a bit more of a demanding uh, pull.